welcome to the deep dive. If you're listening to this, you likely have some kind of stake in the massive wave of artificial intelligence rolling through the business world right now.
Yeah, which is pretty much everyone at this point, right?
Exactly. I mean, it's everywhere. But our mission today is to look at this, well, frankly, terrifying reality hiding in the fine print of those AI deployments.
It's the stuff nobody wants to talk about until it's too late.
Right. So we're unpacking a highly provocative strategy piece by Elias Musman. It's titled The Liability Has Your Name on It. And we're pairing that with excerpts from a related brief called The Silent Exclusion, AI Liability and the Oversight Trap.
Two very intense reads.
Oh, absolutely. And I actually want to start by setting a scene straight from the source material because it really grounds this. So picture a midtown Manhattan conference room. It's just last week.
Okay, classic corporate setting.
Right. You've got a group of executives sitting around this heavy mahogany table, and they're running through a scripted corporate failure in real time.
Like a tabletop exercise for the resilience teams.
Exactly. A simulation to stress test operators.
Yeah.
And the scenario is painfully realistic. Their customer support system has just entirely collapsed under the load.
And let me guess, the proposal on the table. It's the one every company reaches for right
Yeah.
now, right? Put a generative AI agent in the seat. You hook it up to the internal systems, give them the playbook, and just let the AI absorb the cue.
So, of course, the engineers in the room raise all the usual technical objections.
Yeah.
They're talking about, hallucinations, model drift, alignment issues.
The standard IT anxiety list.
Right, right. And everyone is very polite about it, nodding along. But then a founder who is sitting in on the simulation, a guy who runs his own company, carries his own payroll, he asks the ultimate, cynical, but honestly, entirely honest question.
Which is...
He leans forward and just says, will anyone actually care?
Wow. Yeah, it's a brilliant question, honestly, because it cuts right through all that theoretical dread.
It really does.
He was basically reporting the weather from every boardroom he's ever sat in. Because, let's be real, technical arguments about AI risks, they rarely move a corporate board.
No, corporate risk is usually just treated as an abstraction. Companies absorb line items, they amortize, they reorganize, and they just move on.
Exactly. So the real question is, why did that specific question make the entire conference room go dead silent?
Right, because they didn't just brush it off.
No, they went quiet because we are actively moving past the theoretical, academic risks of AI. We are crashing headfirst into the hard, measurable reality of corporate and personal liability.
And the paper trail already exists. That's the scariest part. It changes everything.
It really does. And to understand why that boardroom went quiet, we have to look at the very first line of defense for any company, which is their insurance premium.
Yeah. So Musman points out something happening in the commercial insurance world that sounds, almost like a conspiracy theory until you actually look at the file documents.
The silent AI concept.
Yes, silent AI. Because the fundamental rule of the insurance industry is that carriers will not affirmatively cover what they cannot independently measure.
Right, and right now, frankly, nobody can independently measure what an autonomous AI agent actually did versus what its own internal logs claim it did.
Because the watcher is made of the exact same software as the watched.
Exactly. So back in 2026, the Insurance Services Office, that's the group that drafts the standard commercial general liability forms most businesses carry, they published explicit exclusion endorsements for generative AI.
He mentions two specifically, right? CG 4047 and CG 4048.
Yes, those are the ones.
But what do those documents actually do in practice? Like, if a company is paying a massive premium, how does a document like that change things for them?
Well, it means the carriers are doing the only actuarially honest thing they can do. They keep writing premiums on commercial policies that are entirely silent about AI while simultaneously filing these exclusions for when that silence inevitably gets tested in court.
Oh, wow. So they're just quietly stepping out of the way of the risk.
Yeah, it's a massive historical parallel to what happened a decade ago with cyber attacks.
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah, for years, cyber losses just sat unpriced inside property and liability policies that never even mentioned the word cyber. The ambiguity itself became this huge systemic risk.
And then ransomware exploded.
Exactly. The carriers panicked, and underwriters were forced to either explicitly affirm the coverage and charge an absolute fortune for it, or just exclude it entirely.
Right, the silent cyber era. I remember companies waking up to find out their multi-million-dollar policies were basically useless for the one thing that actually took their business offline.
Yeah, and Silent Cyber was just the rehearsal, honestly. Silent AI is the main event. Brokers are warning clients right now that policies are silent on AI.
Meaning companies are paying for protection that has been quietly written out of the fine print.
Yep. Major brokers like Aon are currently selling carve-backs just to get AI coverage explicitly added back into policies. I mean, you don't sell a carve-back for a risk that was already covered.
Okay, let's unpack this and make it tangible for the listener. It's basically like paying for a premium umbrella policy that legally evaporates the exact second it detects rain.
That is a perfect way to put it.
Because you can insure a human's negligence, but you currently cannot insure an AI agent doing the identical job.
No, you can't.
Like, if a human support rep accidentally gives away $1 million in unauthorized discounts, your insurance likely covers that human error. But if your new generative AI agent does the exact same thing, you are entirely exposed.
And this is where the temperature in the room really starts to drop, because corporate exposure is one thing. Corporations are designed to survive financial hits.
Right.
But if the corporate insurance umbrella has holes in it, if the carrier just excludes the loss, that liability doesn't just disappear into thin air, it travels.
It travels straight past the balance sheet and lands squarely on individuals, directors, officers.
Personal liability.
Yeah, if you are an executive listening to this on your commute, this is the moment you should be sweating. Because this means your personal bank account is now on the line.
It really is.
So let's trace how the law actually evolved to make this possible, because it is fascinating. It didn't just happen overnight.
No, the protective shield of corporate law has been dissolving for a while now. For a long time, corporate boards were generally protected from personal liability unless the entire company went under due to incredibly obvious ignored risks.
Like massive willful negligence.
Right. But courts gradually started zooming in. They realized that waiting for total corporate collapse wasn't actually protecting shareholders. So they established that boards have an active duty to implement and monitor an oversight system.
This is the Caremark doctrine in Delaware law, right, from
Yeah.
1996.
Exactly. Then, more recently, the courts really amplified that duty. They decided that for risks considered mission critical to the business.
Like food safety for an ice cream company or flight software for an airline.
Right. Exactly. For those risks, the oversight couldn't just be a passive quarterly check-in. It required active, rigorous monitoring. And the real turning point happened a few years ago with the McDonald's ruling.
Oh, right. Because that applied the duty of oversight not just to the board of directors, but to corporate officers.
The executives who actually sign off on the deployments, the VP of engineering, the CTO.
Wow. So the individual who deploys the AI owes the duty personally?
Yes. And add to that the EU AI Act's Article 14, which explicitly mandates independent oversight for high-risk systems by natural persons.
Natural persons.
Humans. Humans. The court isn't going to ask you, was the AI wrong? The single devastating question they ask the officer is, show me the system that was watching.
Man, that phrasing is chilling. Show me the system that was watching.
It really is.
Because when a plaintiff files an oversight claim, they aren't accusing you of making a careless decision. A company charter can usually forgive a simple mistake or a bad bet. They plead it as bad faith.
And bad faith is the critical legal mechanism here. It means the conscious, willful failure to install any monitoring system at all.
Like, it's not that your smoke detector had a dead battery. It's that you knowingly built a skyscraper without buying smoke detectors in the first place.
That's exactly. And bad faith is exactly what insurance policies and corporate indemnification agreements carve out. They will not protect you from that.
Moosman cites the Boeing board here to prove the financial scale of this trap, right? They paid $237.5 million to settle a bad faith oversight failure.
Yep. Not because a director personally flew an aircraft into the ground, but because the system that was supposed to be independently reporting safety issues simply did not exist.
And for a deployed AI agent today, the honest, industry-wide answer to show me the system that was watching is that no independent system exists.
None. And law firms are already mapping this oversight doctrine directly onto AI deployments, naming executives personally.
Okay, I want to play the role of the cornered CTO for a second.
Okay, go for it.
If I'm sitting in that conference room and I'm suddenly told I'm personally liable for an AI hallucination, my immediate panic human instinct is to point at my vendors.
Naturally.
Right. because responsibility in modern software is incredibly distributed.
Yeah.
I didn't build this massive AI brain from scratch. We have a foundational model provider. We have an orchestration vendor handling the logic. We have an integration platform, prompt engineers.
Got a whole stack.
Exactly.
Right.
So surely the liability just dissolves into the spaghetti code. How is this my fault?
Well, it's a very natural defense to reach for. The sources call it the spaghetti defense, but it completely falls apart on contact with the law.
Really? Why?
The authors highlight the recent Air Canada chatbot case as the perfect example. Air Canada had a customer service chatbot that hallucinated a bereavement fare policy. It promised a customer a refund they just weren't entitled to.
Just a completely standard customer service interaction gone wrong.
Right. And Air Canada essentially tried to argue in court that their chatbot was effectively a separate entity responsible for its own actions.
Wait, really? They blamed the bot?
Yeah. They tried to say, we didn't promise the refund, the AI did, and the tribunal called that a remarkable submission and held the airline entirely liable.
So diffusion of technical responsibility does not equal a transfer of legal liability.
Not at all. Because the vendor contracts you signed already resolved that diffusion against you.
Oh, the terms of service.
Exactly. The terms of service from your model provider or your integration platform almost certainly cap their liability at the fees you paid them last year.
Wow. So if your AI agent accidentally wipes out a $1 million client account, the vendor might owe you your $50 subscription fee back.
And the remaining $999,950 of loss belongs entirely to you.
That is brutal.
But the real trap of the spaghetti defense is the inversion of it. In an oversight claim, the plaintiff doesn't have to hire some forensic computer scientist to untangle your messy vendor web to prove whose fault it was.
They don't.
No, they simply hand that massive, incomprehensible tangle to the judge as their primary evidence.
Oh, I see. Because a system where nobody knows whose fault it is inherently a system nobody was monitoring.
Exactly. The tangle isn't the defense. It is the absolute proof of your bad faith. You deployed a mission-critical system in a configuration where attribution was technically impossible.
You essentially handed the keys to the company over to a black box, and your only defense is that the box was too complicated to understand.
Yeah, which is not a defense at all.
Okay, so why not just build a really good software dashboard to watch the AI? I mean, we build monitoring software for literally everything else. Why can't I just have a separate, smaller AI model watching the outputs of the main AI model to make sure it's behaving?
Well, this is where we hit a hard mathematical wall. It's a fundamental concept in computer science called Rice's theorem.
From back in 1953, right?
Yes. And to put it simply, Rice's theorem states that you cannot write a piece of software that can perfectly and fully determine the semantic, non-trivial properties of another piece of software.
Okay, let's break that down for the listener. What does that actually mean in practice?
Imagine you have an incredibly complex book written in the language you don't understand.
Okay.
You hire a translator to read it to you, but you don't trust the translator. So you hire a second translator to listen to the first one and confirm they are telling the truth.
Makes sense so far.
But what if the second translator is lying? Or what if they both misunderstand the exact same complex metaphor? To perfectly monitor an AI's intent using software, you would need an infinitely long rulebook to account for every possible nuance, context shift, and hallucination.
I get it. It's a shared failure domain. If my AI stack is compromised by a logic flaw or a bad prompt injection, the software dashboard watching it is compromised too.
Exactly.
It's like asking the bank robber to write the official police report on the robbery.
That's a great way to look at it.
The monitor isn't an independent witness. It's a co-conspirator. It lives in the exact same environment, subject to the exact same memory corruptions and stack drifts.
Right. You cannot satisfy a legal mandate for independent monitoring with a dashboard that the monitored agent itself feeds data to.
So if software cannot legally or mathematically watch software, we're stuck.
No, you just have to go underneath the software stack entirely.
Okay, so if we can't use software, we have to look at the actual silicon. The deep dive sources introduce a solution here called Autocoincident Roll Verification, or ACRV.
Yes. And the output of this process is something called a drift receipt.
So how do we build an independent witness if we can't use code? We drop down to the physical level.
Exactly. To understand ACRV, you have to think about how a computer physically operates. Beneath the operating system, beneath the AI model, beneath all the Python scripts, there is a physical chip.
Just hardware.
Right. And these chips have components called performance monitoring units, or PMUs. They're basically physical counters that measure the actual, literal execution paths on the silicon.
So they track which instructions were fetched from memory, which branch predictions were made, what cache was accessed. And the core thesis of Moosman's argument, the thing that makes this entire framework possible, is this phrase: semantic drift is physical drift. In this framework, position I meaning.
It's a profound shift in how we think about this.
But we need a mechanistic explanation here.
Right.
Like someone familiar with AI, an LLM generating a correct word versus a hallucinated word is just matrix multiplication.
Right.
So how does a semantic shift in a neural network trigger a measurable divergence in the physical path of electrons on a chip?
Well, think of an agentic neural network as a massive routing algorithm. When an AI agent is doing routine customer support like checking a balance, summarizing a policy, it stays within predictable loops of matrix multiplication.
The hardware cache just handles it smoothly.
Right. But an autonomous agent isn't just generating text, right? It has access to tools.
Right, like the ability to execute an unauthorized database drop or issue a refund.
Exactly. When an agent decides to trigger an external tool, when it hallucinates and attempts an unauthorized grant, the physical execution has to leave those predictable loops.
Oh, I see.
It triggers branch instructions, it makes system calls, it accesses different levels of cache memory to pull up the tool's API. The physical sequence of memory fetches literally looks different on the silicon. Its physical footprint diverges from its baseline.
So if it tries to steal the keys, it has to physically walk to a different part of the hardware to get them.
Yes.
And that physical detour is mathematically measurable by these Skybridge proofs the text mentions.
The stats on this are remarkable, honestly. They're seeing an 8.5 sigma separation against a random baseline.
Wow.
Yeah, in statistics, an 8.5 sigma event is practically certainty. They are proving mathematically that an agent stayed in its physical lane, which inherently proves it stayed in its semantic lane. It's a silicon-grounded notary.
And crucially, these proofs are deterministic. They're non-Turing complete.
Right, meaning they aren't complex software programs that can get confused, hacked, or prompt injected. They are just doing math on physical measurements.
They sit entirely outside the AI's failure domain. That is wild. This fundamentally changes the definition of digital truth.
It really does. We aren't asking the hardware to somehow understand the AI's English prompts. We are mathematically measuring its physical shape as it executes.
Which is exactly what the court is looking for when they demand to see an independent witness.
Exactly. It's a recomputable number produced completely outside the black box that you can staple to your board minutes quarter after quarter to prove you are actively monitoring the system.
Okay, so we have a flawless, mathematically verifiable piece of hardware measuring your AI drift. It sounds like the perfect silver bullet. We all go buy this hardware, and the problem is solved.
Well, not quite.
No.
The sources point out that the mere existence of this technology actually triggers a massive new legal trap for everyone who doesn't use it.
Oh, right. Let's get into this. This brings us to a fascinating legal precedent known as the T.J. Hooper inversion.
Yeah, this goes way back. In 1932, there was a famous maritime law case involving two coal barges that sank in a storm off the Jersey coast.
Right.
The tugboats pulling them didn't have weather radios, which were a relatively new invention at the time. Almost no tugboats carried them, so the tug owners argued in court that they shouldn't be liable because it wasn't the industry custom to have radios.
They use the everyone else is doing it the same way defense.
Yeah.
Like saying everyone else uses flawed software dashboards to watch their AI, so we did too.
Exactly. But the legendary Judge Learned Hand ruled against the tugboat owners. He stated that a whole industry can lag in the adoption of new and available safety devices.
Custom is not care.
Custom is not care. Just because everyone else is acting negligently doesn't give you a free pass to do the same.
So because this hardware witness, this auto-coincident roll verification exists and is commercially available, a company can no longer use the defense that software is the best we could do.
Right.
Choosing to rely on a shared domain software monitor when a mathematically provable hardware alternative exists is no longer just a technical compromise. It becomes a legal stipulation of willful negligence.
The moment an independent witness exists, your good enough software monitor becomes the primary evidence of your bad faith. You are actively choosing to remain blind.
Man, that is a tight corner to be in. But if this legal trap is so severe and the personal liability is so extreme, why wouldn't the CEO just hit pause on AI entirely? Like, why take the risk at all?
Because they can't. The business reality is that over 71% of CEOs prioritize AI investment as a matter of pure survival.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, adoption is a competitive compulsion. If you don't deploy, your competitors will, and they will undercut your operational costs by orders of magnitude.
So if you are forced to deploy to survive, your deployment is mission critical by definition.
Yes.
And mission critical deployments are exactly where the Caremark oversight duty is at its absolute maximum. You are totally cornered.
But that forcing function actually creates a massive competitive advantage for the companies who actually solve the oversight problem. It creates a powerful flywheel.
Okay, I get how this hardware keeps you out of court, but does it actually help a company move faster? Or is it just, a really expensive seatbelt?
Think about the unmeasured company. Their risk committee knows their software dashboards are fundamentally flawed. The general counsel is terrified of the personal liability trap, so what do?
They drag their feet.
Right. They run endless small-scale pilot programs. They deploy AI internally for summarizing emails, but they refuse to let it touch live customer accounts. They are terrified to scale because they are self-insuring an unpriced tail risk. They stagnate.
Now look at the measured company. They use hardware drift receipts. Their board minutes contain cryptographic, silicon-level proof of safety.
Exactly. They take those receipts to their insurance broker. The underwriter can finally measure the risk, which means they can price the risk. The measured company gets insured.
And then they scale rapidly.
Yep. They deploy autonomous agents directly into customer-facing roles, slashing their operational costs. They gain a massive cost of capital advantage because they are the only insurable account in their category.
So the deepest cost isn't the AI deployment that goes wrong. It's the deployment you didn't do because you were correctly afraid you were blind.
Yes.
A hardware instrument that can continuously prove an agent stayed in its physical lane unlocks the massive upside you've been leaving on the table. It protects the deployments you have, and it unleashes the ones you need.
It completely separates the companies running endless pilots from the companies running the market.
We've covered an immense amount of ground here, from the silent exclusions hiding in commercial insurance policies to the physical geometry of silicon chips.
It's a lot to process.
It is. So let's make this highly actionable for you, the listener. Based on Elias Musman's strategy piece, tomorrow morning when you log on, there are 3 critical inquiries you need to initiate.
First thing in the morning.
First thing, number 1, ask your broker about your coverage. Is your agentic AI affirmatively covered, explicitly excluded, or entirely silent in your general liability, cyber, and D&O policies? And demand the answer in writing.
Right, because silence is the most expensive answer possible, because it means you are currently self-insuring a risk you just cannot afford.
Exactly. Second, look at your AI vendor contracts. When your autonomous agent causes a severe business loss, what do your terms of service actually say about whose loss it is and what is the vendor's liability cap?
Spoiler alert. The cap is likely whatever you paid them in subscription fees last year, and the catastrophic loss is entirely yours.
Right. And third, ask your CTO the devastating question. What concretely watches our AI agents? Is that watcher made of the exact same software? Does it share a failure domain, or is it an independent hardware-level witness?
This raises such an urgent organizational question. Someone in your company is going to be the first person to bring this up. Every boardroom is going to have this exact conversation within the next few renewal cycles.
Absolutely.
The lawsuits are already being filed. The exclusions are already written. Who is going to be the executive who asks the question out loud and gets their name on the minutes next to the solution instead of being named in the lawsuit next to the gap?
It stops being about an abstract AI strategy and becomes about personal exposure. And, that leads to a final thought I want to leave you with. This is something to mull over.
Yeah, what's that?
Well, we have spent decades building a digital world where software verifies software, code checking code, passwords checking databases, dashboards monitoring logs.
Right, that's the whole foundation.
But if we are entering an era where AI is so complex, so fundamentally black box, that software can mathematically no longer be trusted to verify itself, we are experiencing a profound paradigm shift.
We really are.
If we must rely on the physical geometry of a silicon chip, the literal path electrons take to prove intent in a court of law, how will this alter our daily relationship with technology?
It changes everything.
If absolute digital trust now requires physical, hardware-level proof, the future of our entirely virtual world might paradoxically depend completely on the physical one. The boundless abstraction of the cloud is collapsing back into the hard reality of the silicon. So think back to that founder in the Midtown Manhattan conference room, raising his hand amidst the technical jargon to ask, will anyone actually care?
Yeah.
The liability has your name on it, so yes,
Yeah.
you will.
You definitely will.
Until next time, keep diving deep.